And there we are. A little bit late, but better late than never is what they say, team. How are we today, gentlemen? Andy, how's life treating you?
Good, good. Yep, I'm down in sunny Tauranga. It's lovely.
Ooh, sunny Tauranga, very nice. And mate, listen, hey, what have you been up to over the last sort of couple of weeks while you've been down in sunny Tauranga?
Oh, busy working as always, of course. But what I've shown a real interest in is I thought people talk about all sorts of aspects of safety and things, but I thought I'd go and look more historically, the historical aspect of safety. So I've started reading older books on safety to see if there's nuggets of wisdom that we've missed out over the years. And I'm particularly interested in a guy called Trevor Kletz, who's a bit of a legend in the safety space. And I managed to acquire a weighty tome of his called Critical Aspects of Safety and Loss Prevention. And it's a brilliant read. I don't suppose many people will have read it because it doesn't seem to have been a bestseller or anything. But what he's very good at is making sort of quite cool observations and summarising them quite neatly. So one of the greatest observations that he was a chemical engineer, was what you don't have can't leak.
Wow, that's
I really like that.
very insightful.
Yeah, I thought so. And yourself, Brendan, what you've been up to?
Oh, mate, listen, not a lot really. I have actually, to be honest, I've been trying a new thing, managing health and safety by flipping coins. It's a it's a new thing, right? Like you guys really should try it. I mean, how often? In fact, I think I want to coin the phrase, for want of a better pun. How often are you stuck with a dilemma whereby you're like, do I do this? Do I not do this? Do I do this? Do I report something? Do I not report something? I tell you what, if you are unsure, ever, I mean, listen, it's only safety, right? I mean, really, all you got to do, pull out a coin, make a decision, heads or tails, flip it, land it, boom, you're in. I'm telling you now, you heard it here first. Managing safety via flipping coins. So it's the next best thing. Hey Andy, before we move on to Des, and what Des has been up to. Just thought I'd check. Your child last episode, you were talking about trying to purchase some shoes for your son.
Yeah.
Have you managed to find any yet, or have you got them embroidered with the Circus of Safety logo?
No, he can't decide which logo he wants on them.
Oh
So,
wow!
but just listening to
This,
what you've just been talking about, I think I found a solution.
you
We
have
just
you
need a
have flip a
three-sided
coin, mate.
coin. If anybody's got a
Well,
three-sided coin, let me know.
oh, there we go. That'll be something else we can maybe make the safety of circus three-sided coin. Now that's merch if ever I've seen it. Hey, and again, listen, I'm not ignoring Des. I'm definitely not ignoring Des. I'm going to be coming back to Des, but I just want to reach out. One of the reasons we do this is for the three of us to catch up, yarn, and have a chat, which is pretty cool. But what we've noticed is there's been a growing number of people that actually are engaging with our wee little community that we've set up online. And after the last show where we had a disaster of a technology situation, which we possibly nearly just avoided again, we spoke about capability in the health and safety sector. And shortly after the show, we put up a bit of a poll, which was interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But really want to just shout out to Mick Bates. Mick jumped on the poll and didn't just participate in the poll, actually had some really insightful comments. And I'll just read through one of his comments. This is a couple, and then there's a bit of banter backwards and forwards. But Mick's statement initially was, you can't define competence if you haven't defined what health and safety sector is for. Now, Andy, it sounds like Mick's been listening to you a lot because you keep going on about defining things. So, but hey, big shout out to Mick, and thank you for joining in the conversation. Now, Des, mate, last 2 weeks, what have you been up to? Haven't really spoken much with you since the last show.
Yeah, well, I mentioned I didn't have much planned and it would be kind of business
Yes.
as usual. So I took the opportunity to actually research a bit more in the disclaimer space
Wow.
and learned quite a bit.
Okay.
The traditional approach to disclaimers is just purely a compliance approach. And what I've found is that there's actually a new type of disclaimer theory and disclaimer
Really?
practitioners. It's called disclaiming differently, and
No.
basically, instead of seeking merely to just comply with your disclaimer, what they do is they seek the feedback from the end user and try and incorporate that into the disclaimer to make it more, to offer more to the end user.
Wow, and it sounds innovative, Dave.
Yeah, and so like I've kind of embraced this theory, and
Yep.
and I've taken a new view on the feedback that I've been receiving from the disclaimers. And the feedback last week was that the disclaimer was potentially pitched a bit low, not very sophisticated, and a
No.
bit, pitched a bit low. Our listeners are grown
Wow,
adults,
that's
and
disappointing.
yeah, and they deserve a level of sophistication and in their disclaimers, and I wholeheartedly agree. So for this disclaimer, I've taken a more sophisticated and more cultured approach. And who better, I thought, to model a cultured disclaimer on than the Bard himself? To disclaim or not to disclaim, that's a question for your lawyers.
Oh God.
So shall I launch into it now?
Please do.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Pray take heed, noble listeners, as we embark on this auditory journey of work's challenges and the spectre of safety's attorney. In this auditory chronicle, wisdom and knowledge we do share, yet for legal matters, expert counsel thou must bear. Laws and statutes, like the pillars of a grand stage, stand firm, guiding us, as sage and prudent sages. Though our words may be like sonnets that do inspire, consult legal advisers, lest legal troubles transpire. As workers traverse life's intricate play, let wisdom's counsel be thy guide every day. In the manner of Shakespeare's eloquent verse, let's navigate legal waters, for better or worse. Legal matters first we declare with resolute
Wow.
might, guiding us through legal tangles day and night. Much like the scripts that Shakespeare would command, navigate legal realms with counsel close at hand. So there you have it.
There's.
Disclaiming differently in practice.
Oh, wow. That is, mate. That is. Listen, I think you've outdone yourself in that one. I'm not sure if we've got to be concerned about any possible copyright infringements, but I guess we'll have to take it from there, right? Wow. I don't know what the stuff. Oh no, we're back. Okay. Hey, gentlemen. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
Barely.
Oh, not again. Here we go.
Just spin the wheel, Brendan. Spin the wheel.
Oh, okay. Here we go. I'm back. You guys, can you let me know when you can see the wheel?
Yep.
Yes. Good to
Cool.
go.
Okay, here we go.
It's just.
Whee! Safety software. Wow. Andy, bit of a shock there. Safety software, mate. Initial shock, initial thoughts on the topic of safety software.
Delay.
Can you do you mind elaborating on what you mean by delay?
Get a system first, then buy the software.
Yes, that old chestnut, right? No, fair enough. Good. That's fantastic. Des, your initial thoughts, shock, concerns relating to the topic of safety software.
I agree with Andy. Get your system first, but the my main thought is that it's just a tool to achieve the outcome. It's not the outcome itself. So just because you've got safety software does not mean you're safe. What do you reckon, Brenton?
Um, well, clearly not my forte, considering all the technical challenges that I'm having. But listen, I think in the right hands, I think it's a good thing, and I think it provides a lot of opportunity in our space, and but in the wrong hands, it can become a bit of a whipping tool. Probably in my initial thoughts. Um, yeah, wow, what a topic. Great to see though, and thanks Paul Shaw for pointing out the irony because we've had a few technical software glitches not only last show, but it seems to be chasing me. And listen, gentlemen, I'll put my hand up and I'll say it seems to be all on me. So Des, thinking about safety software, I mean, what are your thoughts? What are your understandings? What are your concepts on it?
Well, I've I've often hesitated to implement safety software systems, and the reason for that, I get a lot of criticism for that because people say, "Oh, how can you possibly manage safety without a safety software system?" And I would say, well, it's only as good as the data that you're putting into it, and that
Wow.
time taken to enter that data is still the same, whether it's into an Excel spreadsheet or whether it's into a safety software system of some sort. It's the same amount of time. So you're not saving time into data entry. You're not changing the integrity of the data. All you're changing is how you can manipulate the data and produce reports and findings. And that's why I think that Andy's comment is very poignant. Have your system first because you don't know how to manipulate that data and get the report or the outcome that you want unless you know what your system is that you're trying to support with that.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. Andy, I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely, for once, totally and utterly agree with Des there. It's interesting that Keith Harvey just made a comment there. How can software do the task when the task is unclear? I think that's absolutely hit the nail on the head as well. Is that people are often sold this idea of you buy this software, then it'll do safety for you. It's just completely untrue. And I think it's a success of marketing over common sense in many cases. But I absolutely agree. You should be able to run your system through an Excel spreadsheet. When that gets a little bit complicated, then maybe consider some software. But the fundamental principles, you should be able to manage safety through an Excel spreadsheet or even paper documentation.
Wow. No, that's I can't believe. I guess it's I don't know what I'm more dumbfounded by the topic that's landed and the fact that we're going to try to spend the next sort of 30 to 40 minutes talking about safety and software, or the fact that you two actually agree with each other. Not only do you two agree with each other, but we're getting loads of comments in the chat, and they're all agreeing with each other as well. Absolutely crazy.
It is. I mean, maybe could we toss a coin to see whether it's a good thing or not?
Well, we're talking about tossing coins. I guess this is where I'm gonna kind of break trend here, gentlemen. I I I think actually it can help you with your systems and your processes. Like you don't need to have your documented systems and processes, and in some aspects, I'm going to suggest that possibly, if it's if safety is a topic that maybe you're unsure about and is a topic that you don't really know what your systems or processes are or need to look like or could look like or should look like. Um, I'm gonna actually throw it out there that possibly using safety software, maybe one that's off the shelf, a reputable brand, of course, can actually help you improve your processes, which you may or may not have, can improve your tasks. If you don't know, I guess, where to start, or you don't know what it should do by implementing safety software, I'm going to suggest that maybe it can actually help you write your systems and your processes when you actually have to start thinking about it. So I think it's definitely a topic, a piece of a tool, a thing in our toolkit that as safety professionals we really probably need to be getting around. But again, I guess that's going to come down to so maybe another question, a little bit off topic here, gentlemen, but I guess in terms of your understanding of it, I mean, what is safety software? I mean, does it have to be? I mean, are we talking about a standalone package here? You know, there's a number of brands out there, and we're not about promoting brands unless they shamelessly throw money at us. But I'm not going to put those brands out there. But there's a number of brands, right, who make dedicated health and safety software. Um, what you've been talking about, Des and Andy, and I'm seeing a lot of the chats pop up as well, is you know, maybe what is software? Does it have to be a standalone piece? Because I mean, you're talking about Excel spreadsheets. Is that not safety software as well? I mean, by definition. Des, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, and I think maybe we should distinguish between software that's been created for the dedicated purpose of administering a safety system. And
Whoa! Wait, let's ease up on the big words on a Friday morning if we could.
goodness me, draw a distinction between that and just general software. And I'm actually a big fan of the general software approach because it's not a straitjacket. Sometimes you need to change your processes, change the way you do things. And if you have a dedicated safety software system where the incident reports talk to the SSSP and the hazard matrix and all these different things interact with each other, if you want to make a change, it's very difficult to do that. If you're just using Excel or individual tools, and I'm a big fan, and I haven't received a plug from them, but Safety Culture's iAuditor product is an excellent inspection/audit tool. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just for safety, it can be for other things, but that really does streamline the inspection process and make it a lot faster than an Excel or a paper-based system. And I would also say that is not dedicated safety software that can be used for any purpose. It's highly malleable. You can adjust it to do whatever you want. And I've used systems where you can't adjust things and you kind of straitjacket it into this system.
I guess that's the key, right? You want it to be flexible enough that you can adapt it. Now, Des, apologies. Apparently, I'm a bit harsh for telling you to stop using big words on a Friday morning. My good mate Crystal over in Canada kindly reminded me, who's tuned in, watching us live. We've gone global here, boys. Reminds me that it's actually only Thursday afternoon over there. So big word away, Des. Big word away. Andy, anything else to add before we jump into the next question that I've got for you guys?
I guess it tends to, the application of safety software, in my experience, tends to make problems worse, potentially, because you end up being a slave to the software as opposed to slave to safety. And and I've come across some pretty horrific examples across clients where it's just become so overtly complex that nobody uses it properly. The other thing that tends to happen is people buy the software for a significant amount of money, but then sort of skimp on the implementation and the training of it.
Yes.
And that happens a lot, I think, and therefore it never gets used, and therefore the software gets blamed as being not very good, but actually the software is perfectly fine. It does exactly what it says it does. It's just that the application of it was not invested in properly.
Yeah, wow. Some great insights there, gentlemen. Great insights. And I guess Keith Harvey's chimed in, which leads us into the next question. His comment so far is, how does safety software benefit activities at the coalface for workers? And I guess, Andy, I'm interested to get your thoughts a little bit around this. The question that I had is similar to what Keith is talking about. I guess I'm interested to understand, do you feel, though, then high-level safety software has a place in Safetyville? And what are your thoughts on what that place is?
Sorry, Brent. I just got completely distracted by some really interesting comments coming through. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
God, really? Okay. For those with clearly some attention deficit disorder at the moment, do you feel then, Andy, safety software has a place in Safetyville?
Oh, absolutely.
And if it had, well, hang
Oh,
on,
sorry,
just
sorry.
hang on. And if it has a place, Andy, what do you think that place is, mate? Going off Keith's comment around the fact, how does safety software benefit activities at the coalface for workers?
I think it absolutely has a place in a well-defined system that's been developed, and there's good understanding of what safety is across the organisation. And I think it's very useful for coalface workers in terms of, if it's done well, to access safe work method statements, to access incident reports, incident recording. I think from that point of view, it's really good. And it can, if it's done well, be very, very efficient. And having sort of incident investigations link back to risk assessments, critical controls, all that sort of stuff, I think is incredibly helpful, and it can be done very well. But it's a significant investment in a business to do that, and you've got to train people, and it's got to become second nature to them. And I don't think in many cases that bit of it is done particularly well. I think most of the software out there is really good. It's just not generally implemented that well.
Wow, cool, awesome. Des, I mean, your thoughts. I guess, do you feel it has a place then in Safetyville, and what is that place? And I'm also interested to get your thoughts then around too. I know you've done a number of talks around documentation in health and safety. I mean, this is effectively a form of documentation. So yeah, really interested in your thoughts, mate. What do you have to say?
Yeah, two comments about that. One is that the safety software, like documentation, is probably only adding value if you're using it properly. If you just have it sitting there, it's as good as a safety procedure that no one's ever read. It's not doing much. The other aspect is sometimes it actually, and doesn't seem to get discussed much when people talk about software, but people say, people at the workface or the coalface can access things and they can write reports and they can do everything. Well, in my view, that's pushing the administrative burden out to operational staff, which is not a good thing. It
Yep,
kind of
fair
adds
enough.
to that safety clutter. I think if someone needs to report an incident, it shouldn't be dependent on them having to fill out a form on an app. It should just be simply, we've had an incident, might be a text message or a phone call. And then depending on your response to that incident, you might then develop an incident report, and the safety team might do that. I'm digressing a bit here, but the safety software like that has the potential to push the administrative burden onto operational staff.
Wow. Okay. No, that's some great insight there, Des.
What's your take on it, Brendan? What's your take on that question?
My
Do you want me
take.
to repeat the question to you?
No, Andy, I'm actually paying attention to you. Yeah, listen, I am a well, clearly I don't necessarily have a lot of luck with it. I am a big fan of it. I am a big fan of safety software. Well, I'm a big fan of software. I'm a big fan of technology. And I like to, and I guess that's another conversation topic possibly. I mean, when we talk about safety software, are we talking about safety technology? And probably not, but I'm a big fan of it all. I am a big advocate for its use. And I think it does have a place. But again, not so much about understanding what your systems are. I don't think you necessarily need to understand your systems or your processes, because I think a lot of people don't actually understand what their systems and processes are, and or don't have systems and processes. I mean, Andy, you'd be the same, and there's no doubt as well. How often have you picked up someone's procedure manual and they have worded a policy and procedure manual? I mean, first off the bat, those two things are not the same thing, right? So how the hell do you put that on the same page, right? But anyway, what then I find tends to happen is that the policy that is supposedly part of the policy and procedure manual is too big, it's too detailed. Yet the procedure part of the manual is too broad and too high level and too airy fairy, singing Kumbaya around a Christmas tree. And so I think a lot of organisations actually don't understand their procedures, whereby the safety software it actually it forces you to think step by step. It forces you to actually think about what are the processes. So if somebody enters something, who is that person that's entering that? Who do you want to be entering that? Do you want it to be your person on the coalface? Do you want it to just be managers or whoever the case might be? Not only once you've done that, it will force you to think, well, what do you want to happen with that information? Where do you want it to go? And that's a procedure, right? That's the step-by-step process that a procedure should be. So I think it's got a huge place. And we'll talk about some of the traps shortly, I think. I've got a couple of questions for you still to go on this topic, but I definitely think it's got its place. And interestingly enough, though, I've obviously had a recent change in my role at work, and I think this question from Veronica really sums it up, and also really helps me define where I think it sits in Safetyville. Veronica's question, well, she's come to us with a question, I guess, or to the group that's tuning in, around do you think H&S systems should be linked to a HR system? And if yes, why? Well, Veronica and to all those listening, I think this is where I feel safety software has a place in Safetyville, is your software in a perfect world will be all encompassing. It'll be linked to your quality. It'll be linked to your HR. It'll be linked to your safety. It'll be linked to everything, and it'll be a complete management system that brings it all together. So, yeah, I do think it's got a place, and I think it's got a big place if used correctly. Des, I seem to have frozen in a really good image, but I'm sure you can still all hear me.
Yep.
Yes, we can still hear you.
No, perfect. Hey, mate. So, listen, Des. Actually, no. What I'll drop to Andy. Actually, Andy, what are your thoughts? Any pros around the use of safety software? Sorry, Des, passed you over, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's used correctly, absolutely. It can help with engagement. It becomes one place where everything is stored, which could be a problem as well. And it can, like you just indicated there, can increase consistency and accountability, which is always good. But the system's got to be right and understood, and it's got to be implemented correctly.
Yeah, cool. Nice. That's some good points there, Des. I'll come to you now, mate.
Thank you.
So you took
It's very
a
kind.
bit personally there. Hey, what are your thoughts, mate? Any pros to this
Well, look,
software?
I agree with Andy, but I think it might also be worth considering bringing up a con with safety software that I also think that people don't talk about is when you've got people entering data into your safety system that is might be motivated by other reasons than safety. You sometimes get a repository or a database of information that could be used in a prosecution against you. And if someone writes an incident report out of frustration saying, the company hasn't done this for 6 years and I've been asking them to do this and I've been asking them to do that, and now we've had this incident, and that's not evidence that I would want in front of a judge. And I worry sometimes that a database of incident reports and near-miss reports might actually be, and I'm not talking about safety, I'm talking about sort of more legal liability here, might be setting you up for a bad outcome.
Yeah, no, good thoughts there, Des, and I guess that's the catch-22, and with everything, right? There's pros and cons, and great dovetail into that. I guess we often though get caught up in the trap that we have to record all incidences. I guess, and is that why we think maybe people fall into that trap, that they want to use software or Excel spreadsheets, depending on how we define that safety software piece, to capture the stuff. Yeah, which is again interesting. Yeah, I tend to agree with you finally, Des, on this topic. My thoughts are there's a lot of pros. I think you can create efficiencies. I think if used correctly, you create a database or a repository of learnings that we can apply. And again, that's then using the information that goes into the software to help you see where your issues are, determine where you want to put your time, energy, and efforts. But the con to that is the quality of that data needs to be good. So in order to use it effectively, it needs to be good quality data. Which again, then that comes down to, as Andy said, I know this is surprising. I'm kind of coming full circle here and agreeing with both of you. It comes down to the implementation and the training and the rollout of that software and encouraging people. But then on the flip side, I think there's also some thought around everything is a journey, right? Everything has a process, and I think for me, my mantra is. You've got to start somewhere, as we have with this little video cast thing that we're doing, and once it becomes a habit, once it becomes you got people entering stuff into the system. That's the first part of the step, I guess, in my approach, and then the next part is working on that quality of that stuff. But yeah, again, like I said, you mentioned it could then be used against you, right? So you just got to be quite mindful around how we use it. Any traps or any cons you can see with the use of safety software?
Yeah, it was interesting. Paul Shaw. I don't know if any of you know Paul.
Unfortunately,
he he says the way that most of these software platforms are set up result in workers, supervisors, and managers getting bombarded with emails that becomes a huge distraction. And I think that's absolutely true. If the system's not set up correctly, you just get emails after emails after emails. Close this out. Close that out. Is this done? And accountability is a good thing, but it gets to the point where it becomes a huge distraction, I think.
Yeah, no, fair point. Fair point. Awesome. Hey, well, Des, we're coming to the end of the show, and some great stuff in the chat there, and some great conversations around safety software, and potentially, I think, opportunity for some further conversations around the space. But yeah, want to wrap it up with your thoughts on the topic of safety software?
Yeah, I would, and I think Keith Harvey has really summed up my view with his latest comment is GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. It's safety software is only as good as the data that you're putting into it.
Oh, is that? Oh, sorry. I thought he was talking about Lady Gaga. Oh, okay. I get it. Gigo. It's like maybe we can make a song about it or something. Oh, that's cool. No, nice. That's fantastic. Although it looks like we might have some interesting comments there. You might need to jump in the chat at the end and reply to a couple of comments coming through here on some of your statements. But yeah, listen, to sum it up for me, I think it's if again, we've all spoken about this repetitively. If it's used correctly, I think there's huge opportunity for it. I think there's opportunity from a learnings point of view. There's opportunity from a prioritization point of view, because the topic of safety is so big. Where do you put your time, effort, and energy? And I think software used correctly can assist you with determining that. I definitely think it's really exciting, and I know it's another topic on the spinning wheel of death, but I think the use then of AI within that, I think, is really exciting, and some great opportunities in that space. But as we have identified, there's definitely a number of gaps that we need to be mindful of, and that comes, I guess, alongside our disclaimer for the show, right? There needs to be you need to be come into this eyes wide open, for want of a better saying. So, no, really, really excited. Great chat, gentlemen. There's sticking with you, mate. Next week, or next fortnight, I should say, in 2 weeks' time. Any burning desires for you to land on the spinning wheel of death?
I think it would be pretty cool to discuss WorkSafe in light of the recent White Island developments, with the
Yes.
charges against the directors being thrown out or dismissed. I think it would be interesting to talk about WorkSafe and WorkSafe's role, and WorkSafe's effectiveness as well.
Yeah, no, great, Des, and I think I tend to agree. I definitely like that one, pop. I mean, it's not just about what's happening with White Island recently. Before all that popped up in the media, there was talk about the capacity within WorkSafe as well. So definitely loads to talk about in that space. Maybe, I don't know what your thoughts are, gentlemen. Maybe if we get enough interest, we can do a special topic on that. That'll be quite cool. Andy, what about you, mate? In the next fortnight, any kind of topics of excitement you'd like to land up on the wheel, mate?
Oh, I'm hanging out for hazard and risk to come up.
Wow, old school.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the stuff that matters.
It's the stuff that matters, hazards and risks, eh?
You know,
Wow.
I'm just hanging out for that to come up.
It's not going to be a long conversation, mate, because isn't it all the same thing?
Yeah, apparently. Depends who you ask.
One and the same, mate. One and the same. So I don't know. You might just start doing some research now, just in case it does land on it, so you can help entertain the crowd for a good half an hour or so.
Yourself, Brenton, what are you hoping that comes up?
Well, mate, I'm a little bit on Des's bandwagon. Really keen to have a chat about WorkSafe, where they're at. However, I don't want to, have any favourites, and I don't want Des to think, that he's got to carry me every show. So sticking with the safety software theme, I'd be really interested to chat and get your opinions and thoughts on AI in safety. And it links in beautifully with what we've just been talking about. And the last few wheels, we happen to have it land on very similar topics. So I do think the odds are in my favour for it to land on AI in software. Wow. There we go. Not only we also getting the crowd interested. So Veronica has jumped in. Maybe we need to add this to the spinning wheel of death if we don't already have it. A great topic out there. An episode on the role people play in health and safety would be good. I don't disagree there. What do you guys think on that topic?
It's worth exploring for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want to understand a bit more about what that meant, but it's worth talking about.
Well, I guess that's the great thing about the show, right? We get to unpack it, and maybe Veronica will let you know if you're going to have to tune in, and hopefully it lands on the wheel, and Veronica can chime in. Andy, what are your thoughts on that topic?
Yep, good. Yeah, I like it.
Nice.
I think we could talk about that for a long time. Actually,
we could go on so many different tangents, and I don't know whether this was Keith throwing out a topic or whether he was just I don't know whether he's doing some arts and crafts in the background, but he's got their sticky stuff, and I guess that would fall under the topic that we've also got on the wheel, which is around safety. Oh, maybe we don't have this one. Safety jargon. That'll be cool, like sticky stuff and whatnot. And there we go. Well, Matt Jones is chiming in, and Des, he's all over you, mate. Suggesting he can't believe we spun the wheel. Well, that's an interesting concept because I think that's what our whole show was based on. But as Matt and Des have pointed out, there's so many interesting topics there. So, hey, listen, I think, gentlemen, your thoughts, Andy. If people are really passionate about a particular topic and we get a lot of feedback about a particular topic, what are your thoughts, Andy? Do we maybe do a special show on it instead of spinning the wheel?
We could do. We need to be very careful about what we talk about. I think sometimes, if it's still live, so to speak.
Wow. Well, I never thought I'd hear that. Look, you sound incredibly nervous and cautious about offending people, Andy. That's surprising.
No, I'm not. It's just it's all very legal stuff, and I'm no legal expert.
Whoa.
And I think having read some comments on LinkedIn about the ruling, I think in my mind there was a lot of misinterpretation and misunderstanding from people, and I just hate to be part of that.
Fair enough. But let's move across to our legal expert, Des. What are your thoughts, mate? If people are really passionate about a particular topic, and I know currently it's Whakaari White Island and the current media coverage around the director's charges and where they currently sit and how that's all played out. But I mean, what are your thoughts? Forget about that particular topic. Maybe just your thoughts on if we get enough interest in a particular topic, we'll do a special show on it.
We could, but I think we should put the question to the people and run a bit of a poll and see if it's something that people want to see.
Wow, cool. I think, Andy, being mindful of your thoughts on this, because we're a trio. It's not all about me and Des, although we could bully you into something. Um, I think our approach to the whole show, though, is not around necessarily voicing our opinions. It's more about asking questions, right? It's more about exploring.
That's true.
It's more about gauging in on where things are at. And it's great to see, on that note, it's great to see the chat light up today, which has been absolutely amazing. And so I think it's just a good opportunity before I check in with you boys about your upcoming futures. Want to shout out to to one of our members on our LinkedIn page, one of our followers, because without our followers, while this is enjoyable with just the three of us, it adds to the entertainment, as you can see in the chat. But a big shout out to Mark Cutforth, who is a recent follower of the Circus of Safety on LinkedIn. So if you aren't already aware, well, I'm not quite sure how you found this video cast, but make sure you jump on our LinkedIn page, the Circus of Safety, and check it out and join Mark Cutforth and a bunch of other people that are following us. Andy, next couple of weeks, mate, or anything exciting planned? Any kind of wonderful world of travel happening?
Yeah, always. Off the South Island next week. And then the week after, hopefully, I'm catching up with some legends of safety.
Thanks, Andy. There's what do you think being called a legend of safety? Because that seems to time in perfectly with the next video cast, right?
Does it? It's humbling, very humbling and concerning at the same time.
Well, I guess we've got to be. We then have to be. We've got to be. If we're flattered, I guess maybe one other way to look at it, but also concerned, is what we think of Andy's opinion. But maybe we'll leave that for another show. Des, mate, what are you up to in the next couple of weeks?
Again, business as usual. But I do want to do a bit of a shout out to the NZISM Construction Forum, hosted by Derek Cassidy. He put together a pretty good show yesterday, which was a presentation from Grant Nicholson, which talked about documents and safety clutter. And it was good because it's something that we've been talking about, and it's still a very topical issue. So I just wanted to do a bit of a shout out.
Yeah, no, good, and I'll fully endorse that as well. Unfortunately, I couldn't make yesterday's session. The ones that I have attended have been great. Derek's done an amazing job trying to pull a bunch of people together and have some great conversations about things and to make some changes within the industry. And I see Derek was on the show earlier, posting comments. So big thanks to him and the support there, and great work great thanks to NZISM for hosting those sessions, which I think are incredibly valuable. I'm going to let you in a little secret, gentlemen. I'm about to jump on a boat. I've got a long weekend planned. So I'm going to have to somehow get this show onto Spotify and all that before I get on a boat. So otherwise it won't be live until next week. So I will be incognito, uncontactable for a couple of days, which is quite exciting.
Where are you going, Devonport?
Yeah, man, I'm just getting the ferry. Backwards and forwards. There's a special on one of those kind of oneday.co.nz websites where you could get unlimited rides to Devonport and back. So that's me, mate. Locked and loaded. And then hopefully get a bit of business as usual going on. But really excited about next couple of weeks catching up. I've got to be honest, a bit of a highlight in my fortnight, catching up with you boys and having a chat. So really appreciate that. And I guess that just checking my show notes, that brings us to an end, team. So big thank you, massive thank you to all those jumping in the chat. I think it's been incredibly productive, a great topic. Who would have thought, right? Safety software and how this has lit up the internet. I think the young kids would say we've gone viral, gentlemen. So really exciting to see. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and look forward to catching up with you in the next fortnight.
Thanks very much. See you next time.
Thank you. See you next time.